animals. So the main thing is to be aware. Our employees are all certified, go through certain certification process to how to handle animals and to observe animals, dogs. And we are all very aware of the different symptoms of this and other viruses that are out there, and it's our job to make sure we take care of your pet just like you would.
Now, you got involved in a very unique, I don't know if it's an idea or an effort, I guess, when you were in La Paz, Mexico, and you saw many, many stray dogs. You decided that you're going to save them and rescue them and bring them to Minnesota and teach them English. So, because they only spoke Spanish.
We'd prefer if they teach us Spanish, actually, but yeah.
And Dave just reminded me from the control room that you have a lot of pictures. So let's talk about this effort, and then we'll talk about the effort itself. And there's one up right now. What are we seeing there?
This is a picture of volunteer members of the shelter in La Paz that we have connected with, and we started to raise funding to get food to help the dogs that were living on the beach. So they're out there giving them food and dogs that had never even had a solid meal probably their entire life. And some of our efforts started getting these dogs regular meals.
And actually we have a website also that we will put up because you really have started a $10,000 effort to get these dogs saved and transported to the United States. What have we here?
This is the first group of dogs we got to Minnesota. This is their initial entrance. This is a picture taken at Camp Bow Wow. We brought them in and they started playing like crazy. I think it was the first time any of these dogs had ever been indoors, because they were rescued from Mexico, and they lived out on a ranch, if you will, outside. And they were just having so much fun playing on the play equipment and running around and happy. And this is a group that we worked with Last Hope organization, a local rescue, to find homes for.
So you're working with a Mexican rescue operation as well as one here in Minnesota, and then seeking to have placement of the dogs. And here's a couple of cuties right there.
Yeah, that's Bella and I think that's Mia. Yeah.
Mia and Maddie behind
Maddie's
her.
in the back. Yeah. They're so happy.
Yeah, our initial effort was to rescue all those homeless, starving dogs on the beach. It turned into more than that. There are not, people say, well, why, there's plenty of dogs needing rescue in Minnesota. Why don't you just rescue them? Well, that's all true, but there are a lot of rescue organizations in Minnesota.
Very, very handsome animal. But,
that's Flaco.
Yeah, that's Flaco. But there's not a lot of rescue opportunities in Mexico, so we knew we had to bring them here. So we just started hooking up and doing the legwork and to find out, how do you do that? How do you get dogs from Mexico to here?
How
do you do that?
Well, the first thing we did was we contacted the local rescue in La Paz, and we said, oh my goodness, look at all these dogs we found living together in a pack on the beach. And there's cats living in there too.
Is that some of the dogs that we're looking at right now?
Yep, there were.
They just run wild on the beach.
Yeah, they were just living on the beach. There's a homeless guy that was there trying to feed them, but he wasn't getting much food himself at the time. So this is a picture when we first started bringing food out. We were on vacation, but of course, every day we had to come bring the dogs some food. And this rescue organization we contacted, we found out they were full. They couldn't take any dogs in. So that's when we knew we had connections here in Minnesota due to our business, that we knew we could figure out a way to help them. You can see in this picture how some of the bones sticking out on how skinny some of those dogs were on the beach. And the very interesting thing is we filled a tray full of food and we put it down, and there was no aggression whatsoever. These dogs all got along fine. They scrambled for the food, but they got along so well. And we were just impressed with all the dogs we've met in Mexico. They're very socialized. They're good with people. They're good with dogs. They're good with cats. They just need to find families.
Now, how do you get them from Mexico to Minnesota?
Well, as you might guess, there are a lot of regulations and so forth.
Who is this guy here, by the way?
That's Marone.
That's Barone. He's a little puppy at the time.
Chocolate lab puppy.
The first time we were there were like maybe 17 dogs on the beach. A couple days later, the homeless man that lives near there all of a sudden brought out 8 3-week-old puppies.
That's one of them.
This is one of them here. So there were even more than we realized. In fact, it's increasing all the time. But nonetheless, we had to get these dogs from the beach into where they can receive good medical treatment, spaying, neutering, and all that. We had to make room. So we had to first start the rescue to rescue the dogs in the facility.
So
Empty the facility, then get these dogs into the facility.
The Mexican facility.
The Mexican facility
Yeah.
down there near La Paz. They work with an organization in California across the border.
And we have the website up now. If anybody wants to donate in terms of the very expensive procedure that you're going through here and what you've done so far, there it is.
Yeah, it's a great cause, and we are going to, by hook or by crook, we're going to raise enough money to rescue all of the dogs.
Well, let's hope it's by hook and not by crook.
Yes, okay, whatever it takes, though. Yeah,
That's,
indeed.
But,
Indeed.
So far
how many have you brought back so far?
So far, we've only brought 6 back so far. The rest of the dogs, these are the dogs that were originally in the shelter. So the shelter was full, so we need to move those dogs out to get the dogs from the beach to go into the shelter. So we've worked with them to help rescue them locally. Also, some have recently been rescued up in Canada. They've gone to Canada, and the 6 have come here. And now some of the dogs from the beach are in the shelter, and we're working to get those all medically ready to be transported up here. We're going to be getting another shipment next week, I believe, of maybe 5 or 6 more. So it's all about coordinating, getting the crates to get them in, and it has to be in a certain program with the airlines, and getting the flights. They do have to stay overnight in Chicago, to the flight we took last time anyway, and you have to pay for the border fees and vet fees and certification fees. And
Get them passports?
pretty much, it's like a it's
Well,
called
actually,
a CBI, but it's almost like
literally,
a
these
passport.
dogs all have passports that look very similar to mine or your passport, with same little folding thing with the pictures and all the medical documentation and everything.
Because of course they have to have their vaccinations. I mean, you have to be very careful, and again, you mentioned the canine, the influenza. You need to make sure the dogs that you're bringing in or moving anywhere are 100% healthy.
Healthy dogs,
Yes.
yeah. So you spay them or neuter them and
treat
make
them
sure
for
they're
anything.
vaccinated for all the necessary vaccinations. And this runs into big bucks.
It does, it does. Thankfully, there's a lot of great volunteers at the Canine Rancho Del Perro in La Paz that are helping us out, spending a lot of their good time, but they also need the supplies and the medical supplies to help us out.
And you have raised how much so far?
Well, we have raised $13,000. Our goal now is $20,000 because the number of dogs doubled because we had to get the dogs out of the shelter too. So we're still trying to get to that goal, which will hopefully be enough to get all the dogs forever families.
And if anybody wants to send it, again, we have the site right on the screen at the moment. So an incredible operation, and I have never heard of anything similar from country to country. Very unusual. And as you said, we do have many dogs here in Minnesota, but you're sending them to Canada, you're sending them elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and there actually are a lot of people looking for dogs too in Minnesota. There's a pretty good rescue program here. We're one of the states that we understand rescue and support rescue, and there's actually demand for them in Minnesota. So it's easier to bring them to places like Minnesota to find them
Well,
homes.
our 3 have all been rescues,
See?
and yours have all been rescues.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's no reason not to save a dog
Exactly.
if you have the opportunity. And they are so appreciative, and they show that appreciation in just so many ways. And it's one of those things that if you're not a dog owner or a dog lover, you don't understand until perhaps you go through it. And it's beyond description. It's really an experience.
Yeah, our timing has been good. Most of these dogs are very, very happy dogs, and almost all of them are very young as well. So they're prime candidates for joining families.
Mm-hmm.
So the 6 that are coming in next week, what breeds are they? Obviously they're mixed breeds, but
yeah, you know, we've talked to some other rescues in Mexico, and they've made up names for the breed of Mexico. It's hard to say, you know. There's some sort of lab Mexican dog. Actually they're smaller than a lab, most of them, but they're different sizes. You know, they're really strays that have come together to form their own pack. So how they got there, where they came from, the original dogs, the history is really unknown. There are tons of stories about how people in Mexico don't treat dogs the same way as we do here. They're not family members, kind of like back in the old days with us, where we just had them out on the farm and they were just out there and hanging out, and they're still at that phase.
they hang out outside,
Mm-hmm.
and you make sure that they're fed, but they pretty much are on their own.
Exactly.
As opposed to the way we pamper them here.
Exactly. And then they don't have the financial means we have here either in Mexico, so as tax goes up on dog food, which happened recently, they can't afford to keep the dogs, they just let them go. I mean, they don't have snow to deal with, so
That's
they just
true.
let them go, and they end up being strays, and there's tens of thousands of stray dogs in Mexico. We're just trying to do our part to help what we can.
Well, maybe it will expand even beyond your incredible effort
Hopefully.
to this point.
Hopefully.
And Camp Bow Wow is on Ewing Avenue
Mm-hmm.
in Burnsville. It's worth just going down to see the operation and really the size and how well mannered and how well cared for these animals are. And we're talking with both Jeff and Diana Hall here for the first time, and we'll have you back in a few months as we try again to suggest to people that they contribute, and even more important, take a dog into your home, because when you do that, you're taking a love into your life.
Yes.
And
You're changing the world for that dog, absolutely.
absolutely, and changing the world for yourself.
You are.
And I know, it's interesting because Katie has her own bed. If I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I come back and there's Katie on my pillow.
What do you know? That's how it works.
Not a surprise.
She's surprised, but you know, never asleep. Only one eye
Yeah.
asleep.
They're always keeping an eye
Yeah,
on
we
you.
have to have a king-size bed to accommodate all
Yeah.
our guests.
I would think in your family, yes.
It's crowded.
We do, yeah.
Well, I thank the two of you so much for coming in here again, and we'll continue the drive to get these dogs here and suggest that folks get in touch with you and participate. And Camp Bow Wow thanks both of you.
Thank you.
Alan, thank you very, very much for helping us. Appreciate it.